Hi, I'm Vicki from Learning Home Volunteers. In this learning session, we are going to be learning the mechanics of how our learning sessions work. The majority of people involved with Learning Home Volunteers are involved in lessons in one way or another. Maybe you're a parent teacher or a coordinator or someone volunteers who actually makes activities that are used in the lesson. Regardless of the role, it's important to understand the basics of our learning session. So let's get started with the mechanics of our learning session. A new learning session is brought to the home every 3 weeks by a family coordinator all year round. So that's about 17 sessions a year. They are bought in these big plastic clear boxes, and in each learning session there'll be 9 to 12 learning activities. We'll also include 2 to 3 custom learning activities based on the child's interest, and about 3 books in English and or Spanish for you and your child to read. And then finally, a content sheet detailing the contents of the learning box in this learning session. The materials are brought directly to the home, and the visit is one of the ways that we get to know about the changes that are happening with the child. We want to hear all about the previous session, what they liked, what they didn't, what things they learned. The visit is also gives the parent a chance to get some additional support, ask questions, if they're worried, share what they're worried about, and certainly, and we hope that this is always the case, that we get to hear a little bit of bragging about their little one together with some pictures and some opportunities to hear all about how it went. The activities that are used by all our families are going to be in your learning box. Each learning box comes with a table of contents that's either in English or in Spanish. And the box content sheet will contain an overview of the session and then a list of all of the learning activities in the learning session. Each activity is numbered and is given a name. And then guidance is provided about whether we want the container that that activity came in to come back, and if there were any other items included in that container that we may need to be returned, and in this case, a magnifying glass. So the materials that are numbered or labeled with number 1 in your box are going to be all the materials that are needed for activity 1. Now, the custom activities the child plays with during the learning session come from our lending library, and they contain all sorts of activities that have been built, purchased, or donated for use in lessons. Unlike a preschool where there's just basically one set of materials and the children come to the school to play with those activities, we have to send our materials out to each child. So please care for the learning activities, remembering that another child in another home is looking forward to playing with it too. These activities come with a label on them with a number. So this one's 211. And it also has a description on it. If the item contains a choking hazard, it will contain a red dot on the label and one on the pocket as well, where the checkout card is typically put on the outside of the bag. Sometimes custom learning activities come with other materials that are meant to be returned, and those will actually be labeled with a gold tape, which will be typically on the bottom or around the item. Please make sure these get put back into the bags or boxes of the custom activities. Here are some of the questions that we get asked about custom learning activities. And the first question, what happens if my child wants to play with the item longer than the learning session? That's fine. We're excited about that. Just let the family coordinator know that you're not going to be returning it this time and that you want to keep it. Our next question, what happens if something gets broken or lost? Just let the family coordinator know and or put a note in with the activity bag. We have miracle workers back at the office that can fix almost any broken toy. You know, I know everybody's being super careful with the activities, but accidents happen. Just recently I rolled over my headphones that I use. I'm an adult and I still make mistakes like that, so don't stress about it. What happens if I find the missing item after I've returned it or after the next learning session? No problem, just return it to the family coordinator on the next visit and let him or her know what activity it went with, and it'll make sure to reunite it with the rest of the activity. Many times you will use your initial learning materials that we provided in the in-person training called the Teacher's Kit. But sometimes we will also use other items that we'll send out specifically just for that lesson, like liquid glue, or maybe a magnifying glass, or other items like paint. All of these things like the glue and the magnifying glass and the paint, we would like to have returned, even if the container is empty. All of the items will be identified with a gold stripe and will also be listed in the box contents. We take playing, teaching, and learning very seriously, and we know that the children look forward to the play, and we want to make sure that they have the most fun as possible. The longer that they're engaged in play, the more learning that takes place. So it's really important before you sit down with your child to at least make a couple preparations. We want to make sure that the child is able to concentrate on these person-to-person activities. So we really want to cut down on distractions. So please turn the TVs off, turn the music down, put away the electronics for both the adults and the children. Remember that one of the biggest things that we're working on is language, and it's really hard to focus on language and new words if you can't hear well about what's going on. Even though when you're not working on learning activities together, learning is possible everywhere and at all times. The world really kind of provides us with great opportunities to point out letters and colors and shapes and to count and sort and learn and use these opportunities to your advantage as you go about with your regular activities. So maybe you're folding laundry, or maybe you're going to the grocery store, or maybe you're driving. All of these things have a place for being able to look for things together as you're going in the car or walking along. So make it opportunities that work for you and enhance the learning that's happening. If you have other children in the house, there's a possibility that those siblings want to get involved. It's absolutely no problem to include them, and if there's a conflict because you don't have enough materials, please let us know and we'd be happy to put an extra set in. And if there's conflict because they're both seeking your attention, well, maybe it might be possible to find a special time for each one of them to be able to kind of mitigate that problem. And don't forget, if there are problems beyond those that I just mentioned with sibling conflicts, please mention them with your family coordinator when the problems arise, and maybe we can work through together some ideas that might work for your children. Well, class tag is where you're going to be able to digest all the learning information that we post up about the learning materials that are in your learning box. The learning activities in the learning box have been designed to be used by children of different ages and abilities. They are open-ended, so we don't really expect a certain outcome. And in fact, we wouldn't be surprised at all if your children across the entire class produced different results, not one of them being the same. In the videos on the learning activities, we'll provide ideas on using different materials. We'll provide some explanations about what learning is taking place and some ideas about how to adapt it to younger and older children if there needs to be adaptation around that. So please take time to review these videos. They're typically posted at the beginning of the session, and they break it into 3 groups. They include tips and ideas for just the adult in play, and these ideas are meant to increase your effectiveness in the play and the learning. Each learning session has books that are chosen to complement the theme. They're read in English um, and by a wonderful reader. She's fabulous. Finally, in most of the learning sessions, we have a circle time. We will invite you and your child to join us for songs and show and tell and some figure plays. And we hope that your child can actually join us. All of the circle time postings will be put up to your class along with a link for to get into the Zoom meeting itself. Now, during the play, I want you to remember the key tenets of our program, which is that the child directs the play, and by that we mean the child chooses what they want to play with and for how long. As the adult in play, it's your job to offer choices, to encourage new things, and to extend play. Look for the ways to add more words, academic content, and to extend the play through meaningful conversation. We document the path of learning with pictures in our program. You take the pictures and post them on class tag of the child during the lesson. We are watching and standing by to point out learning milestones that we see that might happen and share with you about individually about what next steps might happen with your child. It is extremely important that you post. And if you're at all concerned about anything that happens during their play, our family coordinators are ready to stand by, ask, and answer your questions. Call them, text them, message them through class tag. Any of those methods work, whatever works best for you. Around the end of the learning session, your family will start contacting you to coordinate the next visit to bring the new learning sessions box to your home. When they arrive, they will collect the old box. Please return the custom learning activities and any items that were asked to be returned on the box contents sheet. They will provide the new learning box for the new learning session and take the old one away. A couple of administrative items. We, of course, will be watching postings that you put on class tag and share moments with you and your child when you bring the new learning boxes to you. But we want to ensure that your child will be ready for school, so we will be checking our progress through regular assessments. These are done in your home with you and your child, and we will be assessing academic, social, emotional, and physiological skills together. These are not tests. They are play sessions where we play with a child and note changes in their play. We understand that children will have good days and bad days, so it's not one assessment that we use to understand where your child is, but a sequence of assessments to understand the progress of development. It is natural for children to take individual paths in their learning, so we would expect no two children in the program, even if they were born at the same moment in time, to possess the same skills at the same age. We know that to learn, children need so many things: a caring adult, which is you, food and housing securities, and opportunities to explore. And we're here to help remove any barriers. Consider us a partner in making sure your child is ready for school. So if there's anything we can do to support your child or you, please let us know. Well, thank you for listening to this session. There will be next one coming up. Thank you.